So let's talk about that anxiety, right? The feeling that artificial intelligence is about to make your job obsolete. You see it generating complex code faster than you can even type, and you start asking yourself, should I even bother learning Python or machine learning? Is it all just going to be automated away? But here's the thing. That fear, it ignores a fundamental physical reality. There is one skill set that AI absolutely cannot replace, because AI is just the consumer of this resource, not its architect. I want you to project forward with me. The year is 2026. AI isn't just a novelty anymore. It's everywhere, in law, in medicine, in engineering. But this explosion in AI has created a massive, unforeseen problem. A problem of physics that, ironically, AI itself just can't solve.
All right, here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll look at the core paradox of AI's growth. Then, the non-negotiable shift that this forces on everyone. Third, we'll talk about the crucial relationship between two key skills. And finally, the most important part, a tactical roadmap for you.
So here's the central idea, the paradox at the heart of all of this. While AI gets incredibly good at writing code, it creates an absolutely unprecedented demand for the physical infrastructure needed to run that code. You see, AI isn't magic. It's just industrial-scale compute. The more code it writes, the more power, the more cooling, and the more hardware it eats up.
And this completely flips the script. Think about it. An AI can generate a brilliant new app, sure, but it can't design the server farm to host it. It can write the perfect algorithm, but it can't manage the globally scaled infrastructure needed to serve millions of users. AI is a hungry, voracious consumer. And that makes the role of the architect, the person who builds and manages its entire physical world, absolutely indispensable.
So, this paradox leads us to one single inevitable conclusion. If you want to run AI at any meaningful scale, you're faced with a binary choice.
On one hand, you could try to build and maintain all your own hardware on-premise. For basically any startup and even most big companies, that's a logistical and financial nightmare. It's just not possible. So that leaves the other option. You outsource it to the cloud. For anyone who's serious about building with AI, it's not really a choice at all. The cloud is now the standard place where all modern, scalable software lives and breathes.
And this isn't some fragmented, wide-open market. It's a consolidated landscape. Amazon Web Services, AWS, controls a massive 33% of the entire market. Azure's next at 21%. So when you need to align with an industry standard to get the most value for your career, the data makes the strategy pretty clear. You start with AWS.
And just to give you an idea of the sheer scale of this opportunity, we are not talking about some small niche market. By 2026, this is projected to be a $1 to $2 trillion industry. This is where the money is flowing, and it's where companies are absolutely desperate for skilled people who know how to manage these enormous budgets.
So, okay, a market this huge has all this raw power. But how is it actually controlled? How is it directed? Well, that brings us to a really simple but powerful way to think about the two key skills you need to have.
If the cloud, and specifically AWS, is the powerful engine, then DevOps is the skilled driver sitting in the cockpit. DevOps isn't just one tool. It's a whole discipline. It's the set of practices that lets a company take all that raw computing power and actually manage it effectively to deliver services that are always on and can be updated in an instant.
Let's make this really concrete with a core DevOps concept, the CI/CD pipeline. That stands for continuous integration and continuous deployment. So imagine a developer makes a tiny change to the code, something simple, like changing a website's navigation bar to red. They push that code. The pipeline kicks in automatically, builds the site, runs all the tests, and deploys it straight to production. That red nav bar is now visible to users almost instantly, all with zero downtime. That's how modern software gets built and delivered.
And this whole process is powered by a core set of technologies. You've got Docker, which lets you package your apps into these neat, lightweight containers. Then you have Kubernetes, which helps you manage and scale thousands of those containers across a whole fleet of machines. And then there's stuff like AWS Lambda, which lets you run code without even thinking about servers. This is the toolkit you need to handle massive traffic and push out urgent hotfixes. You know, like when a huge service goes down and you need to get a patch out to production immediately.
Okay, so that's the landscape. That's the what and the why. Now let's get to the tactical response. This is your direct plan to make yourself absolutely essential in this new world.
And let's be perfectly clear. This is not about replacing your skills.
If you're a great Python developer or a machine learning engineer, that is still your core value. This is about skill stacking. You add deployment and cloud architecture on top of what you already know. Think about it. A data scientist who can also deploy their own models at scale is 10 times more valuable than one who can't. It's about integration, not abandonment.
So here it is, your step-by-step action plan. No fluff. First, you start by earning the AWS Cloud Practitioner certification. This just teaches you the basic language of the cloud. Next, you advance to the Solutions Architect certification. This is where you learn how to design real, resilient, scalable systems. While you're doing that, you have to get hands-on with the key tools, Docker and Kubernetes. And finally, and this is the most critical part, you have to apply it. Don't just read about it. Build real CI/CD pipelines for your own projects to prove you can actually do the work. So why does all this matter? Because the demand is absolutely exploding. We're talking about skills that are growing at a compound annual rate of nearly 14%. There is a fundamental shortage of people who can do this job well, which means supply is low and demand is through the roof. And that is the single best recipe for career security and growth you could ever ask for.
So the final takeaway is this. The AI revolution isn't replacing engineers. It's creating a massive demand for a new kind of engineer, one who understands the physical layer where all this so-called intelligence actually lives. AI is building the future, yeah, but it needs an architect to give it a foundation to stand on. The only question left is, will that architect be